Hey, everybody. Welcome to Mike Miller Live. We thank you for tuning in today, taking time, grab a sandwich, grab some lunch, grab a snack. I'm guilty because I didn't grab mine yet, but let's spend lunch together. I have the infamous Ron Sharon with me today, that if you haven't seen him on LinkedIn, you've been hiding under a rock. And today we're just going to story tell, right? We're going to talk about our journey from so 15 months ago, I had 200 followers. And Ron, I'm not exactly sure where you were at then, but I know when I got started on the LinkedIn platform, I found you and I looked up to you like right away. So where were you at roughly a year ago, 2 years ago?
Well, about 14 months ago, I think I had about 700 followers. That's about it.
Okay. So
Yep.
we've pretty much gone through this journey together for the most part. So, but I would like to kind of tell a little bit of a story to kind of set the stage and give some background as to where I'm trying to go with my mentoring and just trying to help people. So I'm gonna throw us way off course here for a second, and I'm gonna tell you a story. So about 6 years ago, I had a friend of mine call me on the phone, and he said, "Mike," he said, "we're starting a local singing group, and we would like you to sing with us." And I thought about it, and I love singing, and I do sing high tenor, which I'm not going to do today. I'm not going to take any requests or anything. And I said, "You know what? Sure, let's give it a try." So we sang in a garage, right? There were no performances, there was nothing like that. Over the course of time, we had gotten better at singing. We had about 30 or 40 different songs that we would sing, and it was mainly Beach Boys, Eagles, Four Seasons, some older groups. But it was, to me, this was great stuff because I'm old, so I like that stuff. And so about 6 months in, 8 months in, we're still practicing in the garage. And I would tell you that when we sang, it was five guys, and we sang 5-part harmony. And it made every time we sang, I got these goosebumps on my arms, and I used to hold them out to the group. I'm like, "Look at this. This is crazy," just because of how it sounded. But then one day, we realized that I think it was probably me. I'm like, guys, we've been doing this now for about 8 months, probably 10 months, something like that. We're getting pretty decent at some of these songs, but we don't have anybody to share these with. We gotta, what do you think about getting out there and being heard? So I like to use the phrase opening the garage door. So we decided today we're going to open a garage door, and we went out and we landed our first volunteer gig. And this gig was a veterans event, and we did it as a fundraiser so they could raise money. And I remember how nervous we were, man. I had the jitters. But I tell you, once I got on stage and once we started singing with this group of these four of my best friends, it was just amazing, right? So the question is, so where am I going with this story? How does it relate to anything that I post on LinkedIn, to our journey? The thing is, you can be over a period of life, we all obtain skills, we all obtain wisdom, we all obtain knowledge. And it doesn't matter how good you are at something, if you don't have the ability to kind of open the garage door and get yourself out there, that skill set will do you no good, right? So we got ourselves out there and we started booking gigs. So that relates because in the field that we're in, cyber, either technology, cybersecurity, or honestly, for anyone watching this live that is not in tech or cyber, this mindset that I'm trying to train people on works really in almost any field. Whether or not you think you are a salesperson, you have to be. If you want to eat, if you want to be able to buy 3 meals a day and have a roof over your head, you have to be a salesperson. Doesn't mean you're working in sales, but if you think about it, if you don't have the ability to sell the skills that you have, you'll starve. And I am sure that nearly everybody in this room watching has had a job at one point or has a job now. And how did you get that job? Did you have to sell the skills that you have acquired? Did you have to interview? How did you get those interviews? Things like that. And if there's one thing that hasn't changed in 100 years, it's word of mouth. And for those that see me posting and read our content, Ron's content and my content, word of mouth hasn't changed. The only thing that has changed is the platform at which word of mouth travels, which today we're going to talk about that platform, which is LinkedIn and career growth and how it can help you. And I talk about a lot of my recent content is about becoming recession proof. And so I'll stop there for a second. Ron, would you like to make any comments on anything that I said there? Would you agree that we have to be salespeople?
Yes, I agree with that. But beforehand, I think if we put things to a vote, people would like to hear you sing.
It's not. You know
So
what?
I don't know if maybe the next podcast of this one, but the next one, I think everybody should just say together, sing.
Oh wow.
Sing.
Okay.
But that's beside the point here. But
Definitely,
yes,
definitely not
definitely we
going to
need to
happen
be
now.
salespeople.
Yeah.
I have seen a lot of people that had a lot of talent, but they never put that talent up on LinkedIn or in their resume. So nobody knew they had that talent, so they didn't sell themselves, not on LinkedIn. And by the way, word to mouth hasn't changed. It's 100 years ago, it was just exactly like that, word to mouth. So somebody was telling someone, and somebody was telling someone else. Today we have a greater reach. I've seen people commenting from other countries on this feed. That's how this works. So Mike, for instance, has a reach outside of just his hometown. He has a global reach at this moment. So a lot of people know who he is. So he's marketing his specific skills worldwide. And with the platforms we have today, a lot of people do it. Cybersecurity is not different than any other thing that we need to market. I've seen people, again, with masters in cybersecurity. They have all the certification on hand, but they can't get a job. The reason they can't get a job is there's nothing indicating their skills, their skill set, or their certifications, or what they can do on their LinkedIn page or on their resume. So yes, marketing yourself, selling your skills is very important, because the other companies are buying. That's exactly what they're buying, your skill to solve a specific problem.
Yeah, absolutely. You have. I agree with you 1,000%. You have to be able to understand how to sell the skills that you have. And I've talked about him a couple times in the last couple posts, or I think even the last podcast that I did. I just call him Kevin A because I have a hard time pronouncing his last name, Apollinario. I think I saw him in here earlier commenting, but something he said to me when we were talking the other week, right? So he landed his first job in cybersecurity with no college degree and no certs. And I asked him flat out, and Kevin has, I think he's probably, I need to look, he's over 30,000 connections, followers on LinkedIn.
I think he just celebrated his 32,000.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. He did. He celebrated his 32,000. You're right. And I asked him, there he is. I see him there in the comments. And I asked Kevin, I said, if you could choose 8 of the best certifications in cybersecurity, to have those, or to have then it was probably 28,000 followers, whatever it was, which would you choose? Which has more value, right? And he flat out said, I would take my LinkedIn community, the community I've built, the followers that I've built, the connections, the handshakes that I've done over the past few years, rather than 8 certifications. Because if you have those 8 certifications, great, fantastic. But if you have no community, if you have no one to talk about those certifications with, or you have no ability to kind of get yourself out there and sell those skills and certs that you have, it does you no good. And I would say the same thing. So I used to cert chase. For those that are a little older, like myself, I think I had my NT4 MCSE, then my Windows 2000 MCSE. By the way, I don't think they expire, so I still proudly wear the jacket and the pin, because I still see servers out there in the wild. Believe it or not, yes, they're still there. But I would say, I chased certs for a while. I got into that, and then I realized that you know what? The time that I'm spending chasing the cert is taken away from me shaking hands with people. And, there are more opportunities that come out of shaking hands than other areas. Now, I'm not against certs. There are some fantastic certs out there. I'm not going to get into them specifically. For those that are going after them, go for it, right? But my point is, at the same time, you should also be working to build your brand. So how do we do that, right? How do we talk about word of mouth and getting yourselves out there and being able to sell the skills that we've acquired? So how do we do that? Well, for us in this particular field, in most professional fields, it's LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is a powerhouse. Yes, it's social media, and social media sometimes has a bad connotation to it, but this particular platform is full of professionals. And I actually wrote down some stats that I'm going to read off. And feel free to comment on these or ask questions. We will absolutely take questions through this. But there's a few things that I want you to know through this. So, first of all, there are 65 million. This list came from December of 2022. As of December of 2022, there were 65 million decision makers on this platform, on LinkedIn. 87% of recruiters find LinkedIn the best way to find people like us in the field or like you watching, other than the other job search engines out there. 87% out of a survey. 66 million active users are in the United States. For those that are in the US. Over the world, LinkedIn is nearing in on 1 billion users. They're not there yet, but they will get there before too long. Almost 1 billion users. 51% of college educated people are on this platform. And of course, it was voted the number one platform out there. So if you think about that, this is where people are. Back when I used to resume sling when I was younger, I would drop a resume off and I would cross my fingers and I would essentially drive around everywhere I could, and then you hope for that phone call. But my goal is to get you through the mindset of the whole spray and pray methodology of I gotta get as many resumes out there as possible. So I'm going to ask you a question, right? If you lost your job today, I need you to ask yourself this. How would you, for two questions. One, how would you pick up and find another job? What is your plan, right? And two, how long would that take you? So if you don't have those two things kind of planned out, then you're not what I like to talk about recession proof or recession resistant. Listen, we all can get comfortable in our jobs. I'm lucky right now. I'm going to knock on something. I have a great job. I love my employer. I think my employer loves me. We have a great working relationship. In fact, the partners are going to stop by, I think, on a show here in a couple of weeks and have a conversation. But at any given time, COVID showed us that anything can change. I don't care what job you have. It is possible, Ron, it's possible you could have the rug pulled out from under you. I could have the rug pulled out from under me. What's your plan, right? And so, Ron, I'm going to ask you specifically because I want to hear it. If you were to lose your job today for some unforeseen financial crisis, whatever it is, what's your plan? Do you have a plan?
Uh, yes, I have a plan. But going back a step back, I want to hammer down the fact that I used to own a business for 8 years. I, 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 I had some people working for me in that business, and it was great. Um, I was young and stupid back at the time, and I didn't realize that marketing was more important from all the other things that happening in the business. So I had an excellent business, but nobody knew about it. I had it for 8 years until I moved on to some other things I was doing. It didn't crumble into the ground, but it wasn't a huge success. I didn't make millions of dollars.
Yep.
So that's one example of why you should always work on your marketing as an individual, or if you even own a small business that does cybersecurity or IT consulting, always remember that invest in the marketing side. Now for my plan, like I have a great network of people that are my friends, my buddies on LinkedIn, and always be prepared. And I want to say that I hope there's no companies on here. Your company is not your friend. It's not your family. They will get rid of you like this if they need to. So always be ready. Always be prepared for it. Always have a backup plan. Always have that recommended 10 months reserves of funds, and have a network of people that will be able to help you in the time of you that you need to find a new role. I know several people, and Mike knows the same people on LinkedIn that lost their jobs and had a new one a week later just because they were active on LinkedIn and they said,
Yeah.
"I am out of a job. Can someone help me?" on LinkedIn, and a week later, I got a job from LinkedIn. Someone from my network reached out and says, "Hey, I have the perfect role for you." Um, that's your backup plan. Always keep it in the back of your head that someone needs to uh, uh, that you have to have a backup plan, and
Yeah.
your network is your backup plan.
I agree, and I think it needs written down. I think you need a whiteboard right above your desk that has your, So in cybersecurity, we talk about disaster recovery plans and we talk about business continuity, but we always talk about those for the organization. But think to yourself, what is your disaster recovery plan and what is your business continuity plan? So if you lost your job, what's your disaster recovery? How are you going to get yourself employed, right? And how are you going to make sure that the next time you lose your job or something happens, the gap closes on the time in between jobs, because we all need to be able to eat, right? And the mindset that I really try to teach, and I love your plan, it's reach out to your network, is have stuff or have things. I don't want to say on deck, right? Because if you love your job, obviously, I'm not going to be interviewing. I love my job, but at the same time, I love the fact that recruiters come to my inbox daily, right? A lot of times the job descriptions don't match up at all. But my plan is, you know, heaven forbid if I would lose the gig that I love right now and I would have to pick up, I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to take the lead. I'm going to call them warm leads that I have in my LinkedIn inbox. I'm going to go through the last couple months of everybody who reached out to me and say, hey, here I am. Do you still have a position available? And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to LinkedIn and ask my extremely friendly community, hey, guess what? I'm out of a job. Does anyone know anything, know of anyone that wants to pick Mike up for some work? And here's what I'll tell you: if you have a strong network, right? And I always say each connection you have is a seed, and it's like a garden. If you take care of those seeds and you water them, you feed them, you give them what they need, it grows into a garden. It goes into a garden of connections. So if you over time grow a garden of connections, you're not going to go hungry because that garden will constantly feed you. So you have to think about it, like that. So that's my plan: is if something were to happen to me, right, that we have those leads in our inbox and we have those connections and so on. So
So
yeah, go ahead.
one thing, if you're active on LinkedIn, you should do on a daily basis or every time you're active on LinkedIn, um, use the search bar. Look for cybersecurity recruiters in your community, or if you're looking for a remote job, just in the U.S. in general, or any country you're at. Follow them. You don't have to connect with them because a connection is a two-way street kind of thing, and sometimes they're kind of worried about it. Follow them, and when they post something, comment on that post. Um, get in their face.
Absolutely.
Say, "Hey, I'm here. This is what I think about your post. Great job." Comment, make a meaningful comment. And when the day comes, and these recruiters, by the way, they post a lot of jobs that are not on the general boards in their feeds. Once they post that, and after they get to know you by your comments, apply for that job and says, "Hey, recruiter, I applied for this job. I just wanted to let you know. Let me know if there's anything else I can do." And this is that personal connection, that networking that we talked about. Now, that recruiter, you're not just another resume on top of the 500 resumes. you're an actual person that they interacted with because you left your comments on their post and they remember you. So you're up there. So that's also something you can do as a backup plan, but also just creating those networking touch points for yourself.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Creating those personal relationships. And I can tell you that there are, we can all go to a job search in LinkedIn and look to see what's out there. But I can tell you from experience, well, from two sides of this. One, I used to have my own company. I was acquired last year by the company that I'm still working for, but I never listed a job when I had it open on LinkedIn. What I did do was my own reconnaissance, looking for people on LinkedIn, and that's how I found people to fill positions. So what I will say is it's not just about what job opportunities are out there, right? It's about the people that are on LinkedIn that you connect with and build relationships with that have openings, because not every company uses LinkedIn for their job openings or for their jobs. And the other thing that I'll tell you is so so I owned my company. I wasn't looking to be acquired, but last year, Valentine's Day of last year, this company, Appalachia Technologies, out of Pennsylvania, there, I'm going to give them a plug. They reached out to me. They found me. One of the partners found me on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, I love what you're doing. I love what you stand for. Do you want to would you like to do some vCISO contracts with us?" And I said, "Absolutely." And so they didn't have any job listing. That just came from getting yourself out there on LinkedIn. Next thing you know, I was selling my company to them, and now I'm fully employed by them and extremely happy. But that whole thing transpired. If I had not have been active on LinkedIn, I mean, I'd still have my own company, but who knows where I would be, right? We were definitely going through, still recovering from COVID, and at the time and so on. So you just never know. So Ron's right. Those personal relationships that we grow on LinkedIn absolutely help. So,
And by the way, Kevin said something right there in the comments that if you're in a job that you like and you like that job, you don't want to move to anywhere else, but a recruiter reaches out to you in your inbox, be polite and say, "Hey, I'm not looking for anything right now, but I'm gonna just keep your email if that's okay."
yeah,
And keep those people emails. And like Mike said, if anything happens to you, this is your insurance policy. If anything happens to your current job, layoffs, the company closed, you can go back to these recruiters and say, "Hey, you remember me? You reached out to me 6 months ago. I am now available for new positions if you have anything." So those people already know you. They've already reached out once. You're on the top of you are on the top of their list of employees that they want to find. You're on the top of the pack. So always keep that in mind.
yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. So now what I'm going to do is dig in deeper. So we tell, we preach this all the time, grow connections, do things like that. But the questions that I always get after these shows and after all the podcasts I do is, okay, I'm ready. So what do I do? What do I do now? How do I gain those connections? What can I do to have an edge on some others and so on? So I want to dig into the meat of that. And Ron, I know you have a ton of experience from this past year, and I know I've learned a lot too. So I definitely want to dig into that. Prior to that, I do want to mention that we do have a show sponsor. I want to thank them. They are GRC Academy. If you're looking to get into GRC and you're looking to learn frameworks and really have a solid future in GRC, which we'll actually talk about here in a little bit, check them out. There's a discount code there. And I'm going to give you a little more information for them here in a little bit. But I just want to give those guys a shout out. So how do we build these connections on LinkedIn? I'm going to read you a couple more statistics. First, the majority of LinkedIn users they have less than 500 connections. That's not a bad thing, but just statistically, and there's reasons I'm telling you this, because knowing some of these things make a difference. So the majority of people on LinkedIn have less than 500 connections. Less than 3% of users on LinkedIn have over 2,000 connections. So think about that, right? Look at, some of you that are following, I know some of you that are watching, I know have a really nice following. And if you've worked to get over that 2,000 mark, congratulations, because you've reached the top 3% of LinkedIn users, right? So what does this mean? It means that LinkedIn for is a level playing field. I started the exact same place that Ron started, that JJ Davies started, that even Gary Vee started. Everybody starts with zero. It's a level playing field. There are no advantages or disadvantages that we start with, right? So if you are willing to put the work in, you will reap the reward of gaining connections, planting seeds to grow that garden that will eventually have the ability to feed you, right? So the question is, if if we want to grow active on LinkedIn, what do we do? And Ron, I'm going to throw this to you just for a second. Just give me, you talked about engaging, right? But something that I struggled with that I'd love to hear from you. I remember when I found you, right? I envied you. You were ahead of me on connections. I envied you. I envied many others. I saw Naomi out there and JJ Davey and all these people. And my instinct is, man, I want to be like you guys, right? So, but for me, that was challenging because I can't be like somebody else. I'm just me, right? So how did you kind of find yourself on LinkedIn and kind of get into your groove of this is me?
The simplest way is just tell your story. So the stories I tell on LinkedIn are my stories. That stories
Yeah.
that either I happened to me or some first contact, which will always remain anonymous. It actually happened to them. So everything that I post comes from a personal experience. And the reason why I started posting is, and I told you that story a while ago, Mike, is I sat in a conference one time and there was a speaker on the stage and he talked about some things, and I'm like, I can talk about these things too.
Yeah.
He's not much better than me. He's like not like he's talking about things which I already thought about that are on the top of my head, so I can do it. So I just like I can't you can't start right away and going on stage and say, hey, I want to talk in this conference. So I said, what's the best avenue for me to just tell you my story? And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna do it on TikTok or Twitter or all those. LinkedIn is a professional platform, so I'm just gonna do that. So I just started posting my ramblings in my head, like some sort of things like uh, uh, my personal stories again, and some sort of inspirational quotes that I like, and some sort of anecdotes from my past or that I'm experiencing right now. And people just started following it. And then the most important thing is, more than the content you put out there, is to interact with people. And I try to do it as much as possible. Celebrate other people's winnings. When people get a job, I try to keep it up. I have a lot of connections now, and it takes me a while to do it. But every time somebody gets a job, gets a new certification, I say congratulations. Somebody has a birthday, I say, hey, happy birthday, man! Happy birthday! It's your day to celebrate. I look for comments. I look to comment on other people's posts. So if they post something meaningful in an area I feel like I'm good commenting on, I will comment. And it's important to me not to just throw comments out there just because
Yeah.
of I put a comment on. I'm looking for something that I actually can contribute to. Um, and
The
that's
thoughtful
how
comment.
that's how I grow. And I had a growth plan for LinkedIn, because I'm said, like you, hey, I'm thinking that LinkedIn is a good place to be. LinkedIn is where my people are.
Yeah.
And my plan was simple. Anybody that commented on my post, and that's how I grew my network. Anybody that commented on my post, I send them a connection request and say, hey, thank you for commenting on my post. I really appreciate it. I want to connect with like-minded people. Would you like to connect with me? Um, and they did. Some of them did. Some of them didn't. And that's it.
Oh yeah. It's like building a family. I mean, I have more friends on LinkedIn than I think than I have in real life. But here's what I'll say. My relationships with some of the people that I'm connected to on LinkedIn, even like yourself, Rox, I know we talk all the time. I'm very close with some of my connections. It's been very fruitful to have, those different types of connections, people in different fields, different people, in different types of positions, just people to reach out to and talk to. It's been extremely friendly. It's like I have my family, but then I have my family, and I will say it's really nice. It's nice to have people, because I really feel like, when I post, every once in a while I get a rogue negative comment. And the crazy part is I'm not the guy that deletes negative comments, and I never fire back, right? but it's kind of neat because I'll just sit there and I'll watch our family take care of it, right? Because we lift each other up, and I see this all the time. Ron, if you get a negative comment, we all kind of step in and we're like, no, you're wrong. Like, don't do that to this guy. He's a good guy. And so I see the positivity. I see that a lot. And I know for me, finding my way, it's kind of the same as yours. You saw that guy on stage and you said, I could do that too. I knew I had some skill. I had some life experiences. For me, and I drive my wife crazy, I'm a positive person. If a tree fell in our house today and crashed through it, I am somehow going to find a reason that was a good thing, right? That, well, you know what? We needed a new roof anyhow. It was, this just makes me get out of my chair and go do it. I drive her crazy with my positivity, but that's just how I am. And I thought someone out there isn't surrounded by, someone who's supportive, someone that's positive. So you'll be surprised just by, and I always say this, we all get in the habit of, when we're in a store, you hold a door for someone or whatever, when you're walking out of a restaurant, I'll say, hey, how you doing? And I genuinely want to know how you're doing. But many of us use it just as a figure of speech, how you doing? But like, I want to know. And that's generally how I am, even on this platform. If I ask you a question, or if you make a comment, or I make a comment, it's genuine. It's just me, it's just me being me. And you can't be afraid of just being yourself, right? That's what took me a while to figure out is, I'm not anything special, right? But I felt like I had something to offer. So would you agree on that?
Yeah, everybody has something to offer, even if you're, and people that are just starting out, they're thinking, I have nothing to offer. Like, but people that,
Yeah.
for instance, like Morgan Hamlin,
Oh yeah.
she's just starting out, but she already knows a bunch of things that are fresh in her head, and she can help people that are just, trying to figure out how to start. So you
Yes.
always have something to contribute. So
And
even if
yeah.
you're just starting out, you have something to contribute to people that haven't started yet. They're out the back. They're like 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years behind you. You can always post that. Hey, this is how this happened to me. Um,
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
is
And you
how
don't
I
have
got in.
Yeah, and you don't have to be at a senior level to help people. Morgan and David Meese are two great examples of that, right? So Morgan is still in college. She might have finished up,
I
still in
think she's still in
college.
college.
Yeah, when I met her, she had 160 connections. I mentored her, and now it's a race because I'm going to be really upset because she's about ready to pass me up in connections. So I have a little bit of a competitive nature, but she's a rookie in the field. But we all have knowledge, even if you're just getting started out. Those that are watching the show, if you're just getting started out, you're still learning stuff. There's someone who wants to be at the point where you're at. They just want to know what cybersecurity is. So talk to them about it. They want to know the difference between GRC, red team, and blue team. You might understand that, maybe not in depth, but talk to them about it. Mentor on those certain things. And anybody at any level has the ability to do that, right? That's what this platform is absolutely for. I like to say, if you treat LinkedIn like it is a job, like it's your career for 6 months to a year, it will feed you for an extremely long time because you're going to grow a garden that I keep talking about, and the garden is going to feed you for a long time. And I absolutely believe that it's true. So,
Yep.
so how do we do that, right? Let's talk about specifics. I treat LinkedIn like it's a party, like it's the largest networking event there is. And me being an extrovert, if there's a crowd of people, I run to the center of that crowd and I shake hands with as many people as I can. And my goal is at the end of the day, they know who I am when I leave that party, not because I did anything negative or anything like that, but because I took time and I tried to communicate with them. So use LinkedIn as your networking event that's worldwide, that's everywhere all the time, 24/7. Offer positive interaction. And one thing, just digging into details is when you're commenting on, pick 5 or 10 of your favorites on LinkedIn and ring their bell that we talk about. And when they are posting, be one of the first ones there. Comment. But when you leave your comment, don't just comment. leave what I call a CTA, a call to action. Give them a reason to comment back. Because I remember it was really cool. I talk about JJ a lot because I've looked up them for a long time, and Naomi and so on. And how cool is that when I could comment on them and actually get them to like take 5 seconds of their day and comment back to me. And then I look and see JJ's looked at my profile. Naomi's looked at my profile. All of a sudden, they knew who I am. So take that times every day, 5 or 10 of your favorites, connect them to new people. You'll be surprised at the profile views you get, the people that know your name because you're a positive person. So things that I've never done on this
ultimate
platform.
goal is
Yeah.
Your ultimate goal in LinkedIn is to be a recognized face. And the statistics is as follows. When there's a job opening, an entry-level job opening, about 2 years ago, it was probably between 300 and 500 applications to that job opening. Today, I'm seeing job openings for entry level with 1,000 applications on them.
Yeah.
If you looked at LinkedIn, it tells you how many people click the apply button. Some roles are 1,000 people applying for them. So these are a lot of resumes to go through, and you can bet. And I have spoken to recruiters. I have about 2,000 of them in my network, and the one thing they told me is, Ron, and I know that by being a hiring manager, Ron, we take about, and it's a sad thing, we take about 3 to 5 seconds on each resume to decide if that resume matches what we asks for in the job description. And that's all you get. You get 3-5 seconds to impress a recruiter, and that's all you get. If the recruiter knows you already, oh, I know this person, I've interacted with them, you're on the top of that list, and that's your goal. Your end goal when you're searching for a job, for a new job, is to be on the top of that list, because your goal is to get an interview. Because at the end of the day, the resume doesn't get you the job. The interview gets you the job. A resume and LinkedIn will get you in the door for that interview. And from then on, it's your technical skills and your interpersonal skills, which are the soft skills, which are also very important for us.
I agree 100%. And the thing is, cybersecurity, and we talk about this a lot too, cybersecurity is huge, right? It's like saying I hear people say they want to be in cybersecurity, and I always say it's like saying you want to play sports. You have to pick a sport, right? And, it's not exclusive to these, but 3 main areas, and I'm not going to dive into them, is, you have offensive security, which is, penetration testing, ethical hacking, things like that. Defensive security, which is, maybe threat hunting, working as a SOC analyst, anything that's helping defend an organization. And then you also have GRC, which is governance, risk, and compliance. So you don't have to be super technical to get into this field. That's not really what we're talking about today. But as you're building your profile out and as you're seeking connections and things like that, have in mind what your goals are, right? And have your profile align to what those actual goals are, right? And I'm going to rattle off some things that I don't do on LinkedIn because I see this all the time and people don't realize that they're hurting themselves, right? So first one, I typically don't sell products on this platform. I don't talk about this is the best piece of software. This is what the company that I work for, this is our product, this is our service. People want to know you, right? They don't buy from a logo. They buy and select their services off of trust, right? So, I'll be honest, I make an income off of LinkedIn, but it's not because I sell product. It's because I'm out there on LinkedIn. I help people. So there's no secret. I'm very transparent about it. So what happens is because I'm out there passively, people check my profile out. Then they'll check my work out, the company that I work for. And next thing you know, because of the visibility of gaining connections, my work is getting leads because, hey, we heard about your company through Mike. We know he's a vCISO. We know you guys do penetration testing, things like that. And so you get passive leads from things like that. So, but what I don't do, as soon as people sniff stuff out right away, right? As soon as you start selling things on a platform or literally just talking about your product, people are gone, right? So you just have to be yourself. Don't copy somebody else. Never copy what someone else is doing, right? Because people sniff that out pretty quick too. one thing that my
I
journey.
think, by
So
the way,
yeah,
Mike, we all want you to sell stocks.
I've heard that. I've heard that. I
If
don't
you
have any
start
good
selling
stuff.
stocks, people will definitely buy that.
I think I could probably sell 3 pair of socks, probably, but then that would probably be about it. So I got to get my game a little better for that. So, but yeah, I'm going to take a second here. Jacob Hill just stopped in. He's actually from GRC Academy. He is giving $50 off if you use the URL, the link that he's sharing there. And this is actually a really good segue. Hopefully, he is still watching here. But I want to talk about GRC Academy just for a second because I tell you, the GRC right now is huge in this industry, especially people coming in that they don't have a technical background. And if you haven't checked out GRC Academy, it is grcacademy.io. The demand for specialists in GRC it's greater now than it's ever been, with compliance being a huge driver for security. The number of careers in GRC are growing like crazy. GRC Academy is the best place to start your governance, risk, and compliance career. After completing the courses at GRC Academy, the nice part is that you should have a really solid understanding of the Department of Defense's security standards, especially if you're looking for jobs with like defense contractors and things like that. So gives you a good start. Learn some frameworks. Again, you don't have to be super technical. It's a great pivot into security by just learning GRC, some compliance, things like that to help companies actually secure themselves, because there's so many companies out there that have huge gaps in their security posture and have no direction. So anyhow, check that out. Jacob's here. Feel free to reach out to him and ask questions as well. So
By the way, GRC is not just the Department of Defense. It applies to
exactly.
finance, to medical field. I work as a VP of Information Security in my day job
Yeah.
in an investment firm. So we do GRC all the time. SEC would fall under them, and FINRA, which is a body that also monitors and supervises financial firms. We always need to align with those regulations, and there's always more and more regulations to follow, federal wise, also state wise, and worldwide also, because GDPR in Europe and South America has their own thing going on. And mapping the requirements of what you do to those policies is more than important. So GRC, especially if you're not on the technical side, that's a great place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And even smaller organizations, the SMBs of the world, if they don't have any type of security posture, just learning some of the frameworks, by getting yourself involved, you can be of value to them because many of them can't understand the lingo and so on. So yeah, it's definitely a great pivot into the field. So anyhow, thanks for that. Let's get back to what we were talking about. So we're building a presence out on LinkedIn. Let's talk about some more. Let's dig in deep, right? So I was telling you about some things that I wouldn't do, right? One of the things that I really struggled with over the past year is I decided I'm not going to share much on LinkedIn. I want to be able to look back and say that 100% of my content was out of my brain, not Chat GPT, all generated from me, right? And I will say some of my posts take, I'll sit in the evening and I'll think for hours, as I'm doing something, I'll think about my post and then I'll get it scheduled and everything. But be original, be yourself. And when you're posting, talk to everybody. And I always like to say every post of mine is driven so that even my mom could understand. My mom's not a technical person at all, but if she read my post, she would understand what I'm saying. And we can anybody in this room can easily intimidate somebody by creating posts that could come off as intimidating because you might seem super smart, which we're not, right? But we don't want to intimidate people. So we want to provide content that everybody can get something out of. So let's talk about the algorithm for a minute, because everybody says, how's this algorithm work, right? First thing that I'm going to tell you, and you're going to hate hearing this, is forget the algorithm. Content is absolutely key. And Ron, you and we've learned a lot, this past year where, if you would have asked me 6 months ago if I would share an external link, I'd say no way. LinkedIn doesn't want you leaving their platform. If I would have told you, um, that I mean, I could have given you 3 or 4 different things that would not have worked, but somehow we found ways to make them work. What it comes down to is LinkedIn shows every post that you make to a very, and I mean very small portion of your network. Just because you post something doesn't mean if you have 1,000 followers, just because you make a post, your 1,000 followers aren't going to see that post. It depends on how. Typically, I like to say they show it to about 1% of your audience, right? But then, and it's small. I'm actually happy LinkedIn does this because this is what gauges good posts from bad posts. If they show it to 1% of your audience and your audience ignores it, right, because they didn't like it, they didn't engage, they didn't share it, they didn't comment, they didn't love it, whatever, well, that tells AI, that sends negative signals to LinkedIn's AI and says, you know what, this must not be a good post. No one's reacting to it. So your post dies. Now, on the flip side, and Ron, we've seen this, if you make a post and in that, that first 90 minutes, right, it shows it to that 1%, but you're getting engagement, they're interacting, no matter what it is, external links, whatever, no matter what it is, if your first 1% loves that content, it's going to show it to maybe 2%, then maybe 3%. Different things have different weights. A like or a love, the different, those different things, they all carry the same weight. Because if you love something, doesn't mean it carries any more weight than if you get a like. What does carry more weight are comments. If you can get a comment, if you can make a post and get a comment on your post, that carries more weight than if someone just likes your post. But then I'll dive deeper and say, if you just get a sharing or commenting for visibility from somebody, it's not really going to do that much good. LinkedIn sniffs that out. They want organic conversation. So if I make a post and in my post, I'm saying, tell me a story. Tell me, what do you think of this? Tell me about your experiences. And I'm getting book form comments. What does that do to LinkedIn? That sends positive signals to LinkedIn's AI, which then in turn shows it to more people in our network. So what's even better than commenting is when you get shares or reposts. They're even stronger. The first 90 minutes, from what we've found, seems to be right, and we can't prove any of this. This is just from our experiences. And I think, Ron, you'll probably back me up with these things. The first 90 minutes is typically the most critical, right? What I would tell you is if you're going to make a post on LinkedIn and you make that post and you're planning on walking away for lunch, you're making a mistake. When you make that post at a time where you can stay engaged with your comments. You can thank people. If someone reshares something of mine, I typically will shoot them a comment or a private message and say, thank you so much. Because you know what that's going to do next time? That's going to make them want to do that again, right? So again, it's working those seeds. It's feeding those seeds. It's giving them fertilizer, growing into a garden. And you do that step by step over time. Next thing you know, you got 2,000 followers, 5,000 followers. And it's not about follower count. Again, it's about getting yourself out there with the end goal of you don't have to, if you lose your job tomorrow, you're not spraying and praying resumes. You're going back and looking at your leads and talking to people. So, Ron, I know you have a ton of info.
Yeah, I have a ton of things to say about that. First of all, you're right. Stop chasing the algorithm. Nobody knows what the algorithm is. People who are trying to sell you what the algorithm is, I have a tendency not to speak illy on other people that do that, but I'm saying do your research. Unless you work in LinkedIn and you forgot you signed an NDA, these are the only people that will actually know what the algorithm is. Everything else is just pure guessing work. And like Mike said, we're guessing it because we're posting a lot on LinkedIn, so we can have an educated guess of how it will look like. Now, comments are awesome, but comments with people with a lot of followers is even awesomer. It's kind of like how Google, if you know how Google algorithm works, is if a website with a lot of connection, with a lot of links to that website, links to your website, it pushes your, that's what's called SEC, right? Not SEC, how's it called? CE, the website optimization. Anybody remember this?
SEO. Yep. Yep.
SEO. Thank
Yep.
you. SEO. That's SEO in essence in Google, old school. It's the same thing. If somebody with a lot of followers comments on your post, you will go way up
Yeah.
because you show up in their feed, in their followers' feed. So if somebody with like 500,000 followers commented on you, their followers will see what you posted,
Yeah.
and that will cause
Absolutely.
you a lot of engagement as well. And
And there
again,
was a
don't walk away from it. Like at least for the last, when you post, stick around for at least an hour. Answer people. If you're a very small creator or you have a very small following, answer back. Say, hey, thank you for posting. I really thank you for commenting. I really appreciate your comment. If there's something else to say about what they commented, engage with them. And again, it goes into that personal level of interaction because the follower count, again, it's just for show. The important thing is how many people actually are in your network that that you have a connection with. Now, as a side note, I have 45,000 followers. I get a lot of emails saying, "Hey, Ron, let's let's connect, let's talk." But sadly, I don't have that time of day. So
right.
sometimes I reach out to people that ask my help. If I do have a time slot available, I do reach out to them and says, "Hey, let me help you. I have this time slot available." Um, I haven't been very good at it because, again, I have a full-time job and I have a 1.5-year-old with
It's hard.
stress.
Yeah.
So
And you're
it's
buried with your. I know you're buried because I
it,
am. I know you're buried with
it is a lot
messages.
of work.
Yeah. I mean, I know, Ron, I know I probably get, not exaggerating, at least 100 inbox, 150 inbox messages every day. Right. And everybody wants a half an hour of my time. And obviously I can't do that. But I try to do the best I can, which is why I started coaching and offering LinkedIn growth plans and, things like that. So I could take some dedicated time in my evenings and weekends and so on. But yeah, the last thing you want to do when you make a post is, because I made that mistake in the beginning too, is post and walk away, right? You have to stay involved. Answer those inbox messages after you post. LinkedIn picks up on whether or not you're sitting there, right? I don't know if this was true. I had heard in a report that I had seen lately that even if you're on a desktop and using LinkedIn and you're after you make a post, even if you grab your phone and you show that you're on both platforms, the app and here, that it sends more positive signals to AI. I can't say if that's true or not, but I've been experimenting with that lately. But basically, just dive in deep and you use all of the features that you possibly can. And one thing people get really stuck on is posting. What do I post? I'm just getting into this field. I feel like I don't know enough. I feel like I'm not smart enough. What I would say is, again, we all have wisdom, whether it's from our life, journey that we've been on, good or bad. People, knowledge is gold. Wisdom is gold. Having information that other people can consume. So anything you can do to get that out there. One thing that I've done, and it's funny, is I talk about a conversation piece. When someone walks in your house, typically, my wife, we have this conversation piece when you walk in the house. Everyone says, "Oh, that's a really cool, blah blah blah," and people have conversation pieces when they walk in the house. So what I like to say is when I post, not all of them, but in most of my posts, I have a conversation piece. This past summer, I had a Jeep door that was in the background. I didn't say anything about it in my post because I was posting about cybersecurity, but someone would comment and say, "What is that? Why do you have a car door in the background?" So even though they weren't maybe into cybersecurity, it was a conversation piece. It drove conversation. So my socks, right? Everyone always comments on the socks. I collect socks. I have, I don't know, not enough pairs to just open up a store in the mall near me of crazy socks. So I got to check that out. But anyhow, it's a conversation piece, right? And so, and I see them tagged all the time about different socks and so on because I think they're cool. But the only reason that happens is because it's a conversation piece, right? So I suggest that with any of you as you're building your brand to become recession proof, anything you can do so that when you leave the party at the end of the day, someone's talking about something they saw from you while you were at the party. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
Yep. Yep. It's it's hard work. There's no secrets to the algorithm, but it's just a case of just being authentic, being transparent, and being you. We're nearing into the end here. Um, but Ron, is there anything else that you would like to add before I give our
Uh,
sponsor another shout out and add something
Probably,
else?
yeah. Two things I want to add. One of them, don't get negative. Don't pour your
Yes.
frustrations in on LinkedIn. Don't say how horrible things are. Like you can tell it to your friends. And I know it's kind of like, uh, uh, it's counterintuitive. People like to do that, but on LinkedIn, remember, recruiters, hiring managers are looking at it, and the last thing they want to think of you as a negative person, because nobody wants to hire a negative person. It's like you're saying in our interview room and saying life sucks. I never got a job. I've done like 20 interviews. Will you hire that person? Probably not. So just think about LinkedIn is your big interview room. You don't want to throw that out there to future hiring managers or recruiters. The second thing is, um, uh, and I saw in the comment here somebody says that LinkedIn is not Facebook. Some personal content is fine, but when that sometime I post personal content becomes I always post non-business content related,
Yep.
it becomes not fine. There's always a balance. Balance in LinkedIn is okay. You got married, it's a big life event, great. You had a kid, it's a big life event, great. But you went for a walk in downtown Milwaukee and it was raining, doesn't really do anything for me. My personal preference, of course, but I think a lot of people will agree.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I got a dog barking here in the background, so my wife just got home. But yeah, you're exactly right. It isn't Facebook, um, but again, it's okay to be yourself, right? I mean, I have posted selfies for the past 15 months, um, but I do that for a couple reasons. One, every one of my posts have a long story because I'm a storyteller, and two, I've had people tell me, literally message me on this platform and say thanks for the pictures. They'll say I feel like, because I'm always looking right at the camera. They'll say I feel like you're talking right to me and like you helped me get through this day. So that's why I do that, right? And some people I've been frowned upon because I do that. But that's just me. Again, I'm not trying to be somebody else. It's just me. So just be you. Always, like you said, don't bring any negativity. If you want to be, if you really need to vent, and Ron and I do this a lot. We'll vent to each other just in messages. If we see something on LinkedIn we don't like, I'll message Ron and say, "Oh, this makes me so mad." But I'm not going to post something. I'm not going to have a negative reflection on this platform. So, it's about 2 minutes left. I want to end this with thanking everybody for joining. And I'm just going to throw this out there too. If you visit Break in Cyber or my profile under it, I do coaching. I do one-on-one calls. I also offer LinkedIn Growth Plan where I look at your profile and I go down through the whole thing. It takes me about a week and a half to get through on the nights and weekends, and kind of help you get your profile to a point where it needs to be. And then I actually give you what I call an action plan to help you actually get to 500 connections, 1,000 connections, 2,000 connections. I help you with that type of thing. And I also wrote a book called Break in Cyber. So it's a 25-year brain dump of the random information that's in my head. So I hope everybody had a great time today. Ron, you're always on point, man, and you always come through, and I really appreciate having you as a friend on LinkedIn. Like I said, I've looked up to you since I found you, and I just appreciate that. So
Yeah, appreciate you too, Mike. And don't say you found me. It seems like I was on the side of a road somewhere.
you
I
had
found you
you,
on the side of the road, man.
you had a thumbs up and a backpack. I picked you up. So, but all right, guys, thank you everybody for your kindness. And once again, this community is just fantastic. So
Thank
thank
you.
you, everybody. We
Thank
will
you, everyone.
talk to you soon. Over and out. Take care.